Hey guys, welcome to the trailer build video. And if you guys haven't seen the last video in which I made the subframe for the bike, please check the video description and I will give you the link to the previous video. So what you're seeing now is the time lapse of the path we take from our farm to our home. So our farm is located like around 2 kilometers from my home, and we usually shuttle things between the home and farm using our two-wheeler. The main thing I would say is the fodder for the cow. Usually, my dad has to go back and forth to the farm 2 times a day to keep the cow fed. Ours, as you can see, is mainly a coconut farm, and apart from the usual fodder cargo, we also have to bring in the coconuts that are rejected by the wholesale dealer who collects the good coconuts and leaves the not necessarily the bad ones, but smaller ones that are left to us to deal with. We usually end up using them for domestic purposes, like to make curry or chutney, things like that. Also, coconut oil, which is another main ingredient of South Indian cooking. So here you can see my brother bunching the fodder. This has to be done to fit it in the leg space in the scooter. So my thought process in trying to justify the need for a trailer came from the fact that I can eliminate a couple steps in this everyday chore. Like I don't need to bunch this fodder when I transport it. I can just put it on a trailer and go ahead. And I'm not also limited by the volume of stuff. I'm limited by weight that I can carry, but I'm not limited by volume if I have a trailer. I can, so for example, lightweight and voluminous products can be easily transported if I have a trailer, which is not necessarily true if I just use the bike. Also, it is much safer, as you can see, riding with the trailer than having the fodder stick out the sides. All this trouble just to make this girl happy. So, with this thought in mind, I set out to design the trailer first using CAD, obviously. So, how do you begin a design like this? Well, basically, you just set your requirements and then go ahead and satisfy those requirements. So, for example, in this case, I wanted to fix on the size of the box and also the weight it can carry. And based on this, the other factors can be calculated and brought into account. So I also wanted this trailer to be with a suspension rather than a rigid axle trailer. I shouldn't say rigid axle, without suspension, rigid frame trailer. So all these were considered and then designed. So first thing was I had to buy out all the necessary components that I was not going to fabricate, like the springs, the wheels, the bearings, and the other stuff. So apart from this, the others can be designed. So while fixing the size of the box, I decided that I would go with 4 feet by 2.5 feet width, and that came about by just by the size of the door that I had in my home. So based on that, it was decided, and based on the carrying capacity, I decided that it would be it should safely carry around 200 kilograms. That seemed like a good number that could be pulled by a two-wheeler. Yeah, so here you can see the bearing arrangement in the axle, how it is to be fabricated and stuff, and also the details of the suspension. So I bought out the springs and the wheels from a supplier, and I modeled them in CAD and brought them into the assembly, and then fitted everything, assembled everything, and made sure that it fits well, or I could fabricate it according to the design. I could talk hours and hours about the design, but it would become boring. So let's start fabricating. So this is an abrasive chop saw cut, and it produces uneven or not square edges. So I have to do some post work to make it square. The side grills look different because I used the scrap metal I had lying around. So this is me fabricating the rear door. This is attached to the main frame through hinges that are welded onto the frame and the door. Test suspension actually direct clamp so resistance will. So next we'll start with the suspension mounts. So I started off by marking the holes, drilling them, and then cutting and bending the plates. I'll show you progressively how the material is transformed. So here's a first mock-up of the suspension mounts with the springs in place. These will be later welded to the frame. So this is the axle in place with the springs. Next you'll have to fabricate the clamping bracket for the axle. So for this I will demonstrate the cut and bend technique. If you don't have a bender, so you can use this technique to form a bend. So these clamping brackets will go on like that, and bolts, J bolts which are separate, will be welded together. The bending is necessary to make the plates more stiffer, so that we don't bend it while tightening the bolts. So after bending, we need to add back the material we removed by welding the slots we cut, so that we get the original strength or stronger material back, stronger bracket back. So here are the suspension parts mounted on the trailer. Now it's in the test phase, so it's not painted yet. Here you can see in detail how everything goes together. Here you can see the welded J bolts and the clamping brackets. While welding the front and rear suspension mounts, you need to be really careful and true up the axle so that the axle is towed in a straightforward manner. Here are the front suspension mounts. So everything fit together really well. So we are finally here doing the tests of the trailer. I was unsure of quite a few things, so I had to test it out before we make the final painting and other stuff, paneling and stuff. So yeah, so this is the first run we did, and it towed really well, except for a few niggles here and there. This being a single axle trailer, the weight does really bother you when you try to maneuver it. So, and the positioning of the front mount or where the hitch is mounted also plays a crucial role here. So I found out after this trial run that in order to minimize the effect of weight on the trailer on your riding or handling dynamics, you need to really think about the position of the front towing arm or where you mount the towing arm. So after this trial run, I found out that when you move the towing arm as close to the ground as possible, the effect of the imbalance forces that come from the trailer are the minimum. So this is why you do testing. So here you can see the position of the towing on top of the bike. So after this trial run, I modified both the mount on the bike, the subframe on the bike, and the trailer towing arm, and the trailer performed really well later. So here I am cutting down plywood with reciprocating saw to make the platform, and there are some makeshift railings on the side, guards on the side with wire mesh. So this is the second run with the towing arms modified and the platform in place. So this was the best run. Also the tailgate is in place. It tows like a dream now. You can see how this trailer would be useful, right? Now you can, if you had just the bike, you would not be able to carry this ladder. You would need another person to hold it, and now the trailer makes things simpler. Here we are testing the maneuverability. You can really make a U-turn in this space, tight space, I would say. But I guess reversing would be tricky here. Now let me show you the hooking procedure. You remove the safety pin, release the lock, and then you bring in the trailer hook. Place it there and place the locking pins. And that's it. You're ready to go. So here you can see how the articulation of the trailer and the bike work. So the ring type hook is free to rotate, so it doesn't cause any issues with binding. So now everything in place. The next thing would be the paneling. For this, I outsourced the cutting and bending to another firm. So I was there when the bending and cutting happened. Here they are bending the sheets to my specs. These are 1.6 millimeter galvanized iron sheets. And surprisingly, they came up to 20 kgs in weight, which I was not expecting. So here is a mock fitting of the panels, side panels. I will have to drill and rivet these panels to the frame. Also, I will have to add tie down points. So I plan to weld these hooks as tie downs. Something else that needs to be done is weld a small pin there to hold the door latch in place, or should I say door hanging arm in place. Next up is painting, and I'm gonna let you enjoy this time lapse. Alternately, you can also skip around to the next section. So here we are at the final assembly. I've laid out all the parts that I'm gonna use here. So let's get building. So here's the final outcome. Man, was this a huge project. So I don't really know how many hours I spent, but I did really spend quite a lot of hours. Mainly because this is I wanted this to be perfect, as perfect as I could make it. Yeah. So I spent some unnecessary time on things that really didn't matter. Like wanted a good aesthetic look as well, and for these bends to be perfect, for the welds to be perfect. So everything adds up like that. So coming to the cost, the total cost of all the parts and the materials I spent was around 11,200 rupees. Uh, Thinking of this, I could make a simpler version for half the cost. Mainly, I could eliminate the suspension and get smaller tires and make the axles a little less complicated in design, and that would save a lot of time as well. So all these could reduce the overall cost as well. But this is not a commercial project again, and I wanted it to be unique and perfect for me. So I spent the money and the time required to do it. So yeah, to make it commercially viable, I would have to make a lot of modifications and simplify things. Yes. I truly consider that trailers are underappreciated and underutilized in our country. We don't really have a market for trailers. The economic system or the motor vehicles laws don't allow it, and that is really a bummer actually. So yeah, here I am. This is the highest load I've towed. This is around 200 kilograms of corn that I towed from a yard to my home. It was around 2-3 kilometers, just a short distance. The trailer really rode well. There was no issue pulling the weight. Everything went smooth. I was really proud of this. There was not really a lot of imbalance forces that were trying to push me around, and it worked out really well. Apart from that, I also used the trailer to haul stuff from my old garage to my new garage that I've been building for a year now. This has been a year-long project. I will soon show you the progress of that as well. This is the welding cart that I made, and here I am transporting a few chairs to the new workplace. I'm pretty excited about that as well. Really opens up a wide range of possibilities for me there. And finally, I will have a place to work on the Jeep. Overall, this was a great learning experience. So yeah, this project I think pushed my capabilities a lot, and I had learned a lot of things in this project. So subscribe for more cool projects like this, and I'll see you around. Bye.